Dear viewers, before we enter this story, remember that danger does not always come from outside. Sometimes it sits quietly inside a home, smiling, waiting, hiding behind soft words and gentle faces. In this story, one woman will see the truth, one man will walk toward danger without knowing, and one moment will change every life inside a billionaire's mansion. Now, let us begin. The morning started slow inside the large mansion in Atlanta. The sun touched the tall windows gently, and the house looked peaceful, as if nothing bad could ever happen behind its walls. Anyone driving past would think Michael Reed had the perfect life. They would see the big house, the clean lawn, the expensive cars, and they would say he was blessed. But inside those wide walls, a heavy silence lived, a kind of silence that felt sad, tired, and lonely. Michael sat at the edge of his bed that morning, staring at the empty space beside him. Vanessa did not sleep in the same room anymore. She said she needed space. She said the bed felt crowded. She said she slept better alone. Michael accepted it because fighting made things worse. He stood slowly, walked to the balcony, and breathed in the soft air. Atlanta was waking up, but he felt like he had not woken up in years. The man people respected, the man they praised, felt small inside his own home. When Michael reached the kitchen, Emily Parker was already sweeping the floor. She greeted him with a gentle smile, a smile full of respect and warmth, the kind he no longer received from his wife. Emily had only worked for him for a short time, but she worked with her whole heart. She cleaned with care, moved with purpose, and never complained. She needed the job, she needed the money, and she needed the hope it gave her. Her mother in Tennessee was very sick, and Emily prayed every day that her strength would last one more week. Every dollar she earned felt like a step towards saving her mother's life. Michael nodded to her softly, and she bowed her head politely. He liked her humility, her quiet spirit, and her honesty. She did not pretend, she did not force fake smiles, she did not try to impress anyone. She just worked, silently, strongly, and with a heart that seemed bigger than her body. Vanessa came down the stairs moments later, her heels clicking loudly on the steps. She wore a bright dress, expensive earrings, and a face full of beauty, but her eyes were cold. She barely looked at Michael. She walked past him like he was a stranger standing in her way. Emily stepped aside quickly, lowering her head, but Vanessa still looked at her with a sharp expression, as if Emily's presence bothered her. "Make sure the dining room is perfect today," Vanessa said, her voice dry and hard. "I don't want to see anything out of place." "Yes, ma'am," Emily replied softly. Vanessa turned away without a thank you, without care, without kindness. Emily swallowed her hurt and continued sweeping. She knew Vanessa disliked her from the first day. She did not know why, she did not understand it, but she felt it every time Vanessa looked at her. There was something in Vanessa's eyes, something dark, something jealous, something angry. Michael watched the exchange quietly. He wanted to speak up, but he was tired of arguments, tired of trying, tired of feeling unwanted in his own home. He picked up his briefcase and left for work. Emily watched as he walked out the door, and she felt a sadness she could not explain. A man with so much money still carried so much pain. The mansion felt bigger after Michael left, the silence thicker, the air heavier. Emily cleaned the living room, dusted the shelves, wiped the tables, and arranged the cushions. The house was beautiful, but it felt lifeless, like a place where love had died years ago. Around noon, the doorbell rang. Emily moved toward it, but Vanessa hurried across the room. "I will get it," she said quickly, her voice sharp, almost scared. Emily stepped back. Vanessa opened the door just enough to let a man inside. Emily had never seen him before. He was tall, with a strange smile, and his eyes carried a boldness that made Emily uneasy. "Emily, go to the kitchen," Vanessa said firmly. Emily obeyed and walked away, but she could still hear their footsteps and soft whispers going up the stairs. Vanessa said the man was her cousin when he visited last week, but cousins did not walk that close. Cousins did not lock doors, and cousins did not laugh in low secret voices. Emily tried to clean the dishes, but her hands shook. Something felt wrong, terribly wrong, like a quiet storm waiting to break. She moved slowly, listening without meaning to, and every sound from upstairs made her chest tighten. Later, she walked past the hallway near the pantry, and she froze. She heard their voices, low but clear. "We just need him gone," Vanessa whispered, her voice trembling in a strange way. "The money is worth it," the man replied slowly. "Once it happens, we leave this place." Emily felt her legs weaken. She held the wall, her breath shaking, her eyes wide with shock. She knew they were not talking about a divorce. She knew they were not talking about leaving the marriage. They were speaking about something far darker, something that could take a man's life away. She stepped back quietly, her heart heavy, her mind spinning. She did not know what to do. She did not know who to trust, and she did not know how far their plan had already gone. But she knew one thing for sure. Danger was already inside the house. Emily walked slowly away from the pantry. Her legs felt weak, her breath felt tight, and her hands shook as she held the wall. The words she heard would not leave her mind. They rolled through her chest again and again, each time sharper, each time heavier. Vanessa wanted Michael gone. Derek wanted Michael gone. They were not talking about an argument. They were not talking about anger. They were talking about something permanent, something that would end a life. Emily stood in the hallway for a long moment, trying to breathe, trying to calm her fear. She knew she could not tell Vanessa she heard anything. She knew she could not let them see fear on her face. They already disliked her, and if they sensed she knew their secret, they might panic, and people who panic often do dangerous things. Emily lowered her eyes, rubbed her shaking hands against her dress, and forced herself to continue cleaning. But every corner of the house felt different now. Every sound sounded louder. Every step from upstairs felt like a warning. Emily tried to distract herself with work, but her mind kept drifting back to her mother. She imagined her mother lying in a small hospital bed, breathing slowly, waiting for the next round of medicine. Emily thought about how she promised her mother she would not lose this job. She promised she would fight for every dollar. She promised she would not let anything get in the way of her mother's treatment. That promise now pressed against her heart. If she spoke up, Vanessa would fire her. And if Vanessa fired her, everything would fall apart. But if she stayed quiet, Michael could lose his life. Emily felt trapped, as if the walls around her were closing in. Hours passed slowly. The house felt colder, even though the sun was bright outside. Emily swept the stairs, cleaned the railing, and wiped every table she could find. But her mind stayed on Vanessa and Derek. She did not understand how people with money and comfort could choose such darkness. She wondered what Michael had done to deserve this. What mistake he made that turned his wife's heart into something cruel. In the late afternoon, the sound of the front door opening echoed through the mansion. Emily turned quickly. Michael walked in, tired from a long day at work. He looked around the house the same way he always did, with quiet hope, hoping things would feel normal again. But the house did not welcome him. The air felt heavy, and the silence followed him from room to room. Vanessa came down the stairs slowly, her face bright with a fake smile. "How was your day?" she asked softly. "Long," Michael replied, his voice low and tired. Emily watched them from the dining room doorway. She tried to look away, but Michael's face held such sadness that it pulled at her heart. He looked like a man carrying a weight he could not put down. Vanessa walked closer to him, placed her hand on his arm, but the touch felt forced. Emily could see it clearly, even from a distance. Vanessa's hand stayed for only a moment before she pulled away, as if she did not want her skin touching him longer than necessary. Michael nodded and walked toward his study. Emily returned to her chores, but the uneasiness stayed with her. She wanted to warn him, she wanted to tell him what she heard, but she did not know how to speak to a billionaire about something so serious. She feared he might think she was lying. She feared Vanessa might twist the truth. She feared Derek might return. Later in the evening, Emily cleaned the guest room when she heard footsteps coming down the hall. She turned and froze. Derek stood there, leaning against the wall, watching her with a slow smile. His eyes were sharp, cold, and too curious. "You work very hard," he said lightly. Emily swallowed. "Yes, sir," she replied softly. He stepped closer, his smile deeper, his eyes darker. "I hope you mind your business in this house," he said, his voice low. "Some things are not for maids to know." Her heart dropped. She lowered her eyes. "I only do my work, sir," she whispered. "That is good," Derek said. "Keep it that way." He walked past her, but his presence left a cold feeling behind him. Emily stood still, trying to stop her shaking. She knew he was warning her. She knew he suspected something. She pressed her hands together tightly and prayed silently for strength. When night came, the house grew even quieter. Vanessa stayed in her room, talking softly on the phone. Michael stayed in his study, staring at documents but not really reading them. Emily finished her last task of the night, a simple one, setting the table for the next morning. But as she placed the final spoon on the table, she heard something faint, something like a whisper from upstairs. She moved slowly, walked to the base of the staircase, and listened. She heard Vanessa's voice, soft but sharp, whispering on the phone. "He will drink it soon," she said. "Stop worrying. It will look natural." Emily felt her knees weaken. She held the railing tightly. She knew now that this was not an idea, not a plan for the future. Vanessa was ready. Vanessa was waiting. Emily stepped back quietly. She felt fear in her chest, but she also felt a small spark of strength. She knew she could not let this happen. Even if she lost her job, even if her mother suffered, she could not watch an innocent man die. She walked to her small room, sat on her bed, and put her face in her hands. She did not sleep. She did not rest. She stayed awake, listening to every sound in the mansion, praying for a way to protect Michael without destroying her own life. The night felt long, cold, and heavy, and Emily knew that tomorrow would be the day everything changed. Emily woke up early before the sun touched the sky. She sat on the edge of her bed, her hands shaking, her eyes tired from a night without sleep. The words she heard from Vanessa's phone call stayed in her mind like a heavy weight that refused to move. "He will drink it soon," Vanessa said. "It will look natural." Those words felt dangerous, clear, and deadly. Emily knew today would not be a normal day inside the mansion. She could feel something dark waiting to happen, something that would demand courage she never imagined she had. She stood slowly, brushed her hair back, and whispered a short prayer for strength. Her mother's face came into her mind, weak but hopeful, always telling her to do what is right even when the right thing brings fear. Emily held those words in her heart as she walked quietly into the hallway. The house felt colder than usual, the air thick, the silence strong enough to make her chest tighten. Every step she took felt heavier, as if the floor knew danger was moving inside the mansion. Emily reached the kitchen and began her morning duties. She washed the dishes slowly, wiped the counters carefully, and arranged the cups on the table exactly the way Vanessa liked. But her hands shook each time she touched a cup. She kept looking toward the pantry door, afraid Vanessa would enter at any moment. She tried to stay calm, tried to breathe slowly, tried to think clearly, but her mind kept returning to the same terrifying thought. Vanessa was ready to poison Michael, and today could be the day. The clock ticked softly, each sound echoing through the kitchen. A few minutes later, Emily heard footsteps on the stairs. She looked up quickly and saw Vanessa walking down in a silk robe. Vanessa's face looked calm, too calm. The kind of calm that hides something dangerous inside. She walked to the kitchen with slow steps, her eyes sharp, her expression unreadable. Emily lowered her head quickly, pretending to focus on washing the sink. Vanessa opened the cabinet, took out Michael's favorite tea leaves, and placed them on the counter. Emily's heart tightened. She watched from the corner of her eyes as Vanessa opened the drawer softly and took out a small silver spoon. She measured the tea leaves with care, almost with tenderness, as if she was preparing something warm for someone she loved. But Emily knew the truth. Vanessa was not preparing kindness. She was preparing death. Emily swallowed hard and continued cleaning, but her eyes stayed on Vanessa's hands. She saw Vanessa pause, check the hallway, and look toward the pantry door. When she thought no one was watching, she slipped her hand into her robe pocket and pulled out the small bottle. The same bottle Emily saw last time. The same bottle she heard Vanessa talking about. The bottle held a white powder, soft and dangerous, the kind that leaves no smell and no taste. Emily felt her knees weaken. Her throat tightened. Her breath shook. She could not speak. She could not move. She could only watch. Vanessa opened the bottle slowly and poured the powder into the cup. It melted fast, disappearing like it was never there. Vanessa stirred the cup gently, her face calm, her eyes dark. When she finished, she placed the bottle back into her robe pocket and lifted the cup carefully. Emily turned away quickly, pretending to wipe the kitchen window. Vanessa did not speak to her. She did not ask for help. She did not even look at her. She simply walked out of the kitchen, carrying the cup the same way one carries something precious. Emily waited a moment, counted slowly in her mind, and then followed from a distance. Her breath felt tight. Her fingers trembled. She knew this was the moment she had feared. Vanessa walked up the stairs slowly, as if she wanted every step to feel quiet and gentle. Emily followed behind, her heart heavy, her legs weak. She reached the top of the stairs and heard Vanessa open the bedroom door. Michael was inside, sitting on the bed, looking tired. He smiled softly when he saw Vanessa, the kind of smile that came from hope, the hope that maybe today she would treat him with love. Vanessa returned the smile, but her eyes stayed cold. She moved closer to him and placed the cup on the small table beside the bed. Emily stood in the hallway for a moment, frozen by fear. She could see Michael reaching for the cup. She felt her chest tighten, her breath stop, her whole body shake. If she waited one more second, he might drink it. If she stayed silent, he might never stand again. Emily stepped forward slowly and pushed the door open. The cup reached Michael's hand. Vanessa looked at him with a strange, tense smile. Emily felt something inside her break, something filled with fear and courage. She ran toward the room, her voice rising from deep inside her chest, loud, desperate, filled with urgency she could not hold back. "Michael, please, don't drink it," she screamed. The cup froze in his hand. The room turned silent. Vanessa's face changed quickly, her calm smile cracking, her eyes wide with shock and anger. Michael looked at Emily, confused, scared, unsure why she had burst into the room. He looked at the cup slowly, then at Vanessa, then back at Emily. The air felt heavy, sharp, and frightening. Vanessa stepped back, her fingers trembling. Michael's voice broke the silence. "Why did you shout?" he asked her softly. Emily took a deep breath, her whole body shaking. "Sir, please," she whispered, her voice weak but firm. "Please, do not drink that cup." She pointed to Vanessa's pocket. "Check her pocket," Emily said quietly. "There is something inside." Vanessa panicked instantly. "She is lying," she cried. "She wants to ruin us." But Michael saw fear in her eyes, a fear she could not hide. Michael did not take his eyes off Vanessa. The cup was still on the table. The small bottle was still on his mind, and Emily's shaking voice was still hanging in the air. He felt like the room had become smaller, like every wall was listening. "Vanessa," he said quietly, "bring out what is in your pocket." Vanessa's chest rose and fell fast. "There is nothing in my pocket," she replied at once. "She is lying. She wants to destroy our home. She wants you to trust her more than your own wife." Emily stood close to the door, her fingers pressed together, her body shaking, but she did not look away. She knew if she stepped back now, everything would be lost. If Michael believed Vanessa, she would lose her job, lose her chance to help her mother, and worst of all, he might still drink that poison one day. Michael's voice stayed calm, but there was strength in it. "If you have nothing to hide," he said, "then show me your pocket." Vanessa took a small step back. "You will believe a maid over me," she cried. "You do not even know where she came from. I am your wife, Michael." He walked closer, slowly, like a man who had already decided he needed the truth more than he needed peace. "I am asking you one more time," he said. "Give me what is in your pocket." Her fingers trembled. For a second, it looked like she might run to the door, but Michael reached her first. He took her wrist, not with anger, but with firm strength, and with his other hand he reached into the pocket of her robe. When he pulled his hand back out, the small bottle of white powder sat on his palm. The whole room went silent. Emily closed her eyes for a moment, a soft breath leaving her lips in relief and fear at the same time. Vanessa's face lost all color, her lips shook, and her eyes filled with panic. "What is this?" Michael asked, his voice low. Vanessa looked at the floor. "I was angry," she whispered. "I only wanted you to feel afraid. I was never going to let you drink it." Emily stepped forward. "Sir, I saw her pour that into your tea," she said softly. "I heard her and Derek talking. They said once you are gone, they will have your money and leave this house." Michael's shoulders dropped, like something inside him snapped. He looked at the bottle, then at the cup, then back at Vanessa. "You live in this house, you wear my name, and you planned this," he said. "How long has this been in your heart?" Vanessa started to cry. "You left me alone. You only cared about work," she said. "You stopped seeing me, you stopped hearing me." "So you chose to end my life," he replied. There was no shouting, only deep hurt. Emily stepped back a little, giving them space, but she stayed where she could see everything. She knew this moment was not just about poison, it was also about truth. Michael put the bottle on the table and reached for his phone. His hands shook a little now, not from the drink, but from what his wife had done. He called his private doctor first. "Dr. Lawson," he said, "this is Michael Reed. I need you at my house right now. Bring what you need to test something. It is very serious." Next he called his lawyer, attorney Robert Mills, and then his head of security. He told them to come at once and to enter quietly through the side gate. Vanessa sat on the floor, crying and talking fast. She said she made a mistake. She said she only wanted to scare him so he would pay attention to her again. But the bottle on the table and the tea beside it said something else. When Dr. Lawson arrived, his face was calm, but his eyes were serious. He looked at the cup, the bottle, and then at Michael. "Let me see," he said quietly. He took a small amount of the tea and did a quick test with a simple kit he carried. The color changed slowly, and his expression grew heavy. "This is a strong poison," he said. "If you had taken this, you might have collapsed within minutes. It would look like a sudden sickness." Emily felt her legs weaken. She held on to the side of the dressing table. Michael looked at her and nodded slowly. "You truly saved my life," he said. The head of security arrived next. He checked the cameras in the kitchen and hallway. One short clip showed Vanessa holding the bottle near the counter. Another showed her carrying the cup up the stairs. It was not very clear, but it added to the story. Attorney Mills took Vanessa's phone, even as she tried to pull it back. He opened her messages and scrolled. His face tightened as he read. "There are many chats with Derek," he said. "Talk about money, about a future without you, about something that will happen soon so they can leave. This is not a mistake, this is a plan. The police were called. When they entered the mansion, the house did not feel rich anymore. It felt broken. They listened carefully as Michael spoke, as Dr. Lawson explained the poison, as the lawyer showed the messages, and as Emily told her part. Emily spoke slowly. She told them what she heard near the pantry, what she heard in the phone call at night, and what she saw in the kitchen that morning. She told them how she watched the white powder melt into the tea, and how she could not stay silent when she saw Michael raise the cup. Vanessa was put in handcuffs. As they led her toward the door, she turned to Emily with angry tears in her eyes. "You ruined everything," she said. Emily swallowed and answered in a quiet voice. "You were going to end his life," she replied. "I could not let that happen." Later that night, the police found Derek at his apartment. His phone and computer were filled with the same messages, talking about money, freedom, and Michael being out of the way. He too was arrested. By the next morning, the story had reached every corner of Atlanta. People read about the rich businessman whose wife tried to poison him, about the secret lover, and about the maid who shouted in time. Reporters came to the gate, cameras ready, but Emily did not come outside. She did not want to be on television. She did not save Michael for attention. She only wanted to do what was right, and to keep her heart clean before God and before her mother. Weeks later, the case went to court. The room was full. The judge listened as the lawyers spoke, as Dr. Lawson explained the test results, as officers talked about the arrest, and as screenshots of the messages were shown. Then Emily was called. She walked to the front slowly, her hands joined, her steps steady. She promised to tell the truth, then lifted her head. In simple words, she told them everything, from the first time she saw Derek, to the whispers, to the powder in the tea, to the moment she shouted, "Michael, please, do not drink it." The court was quiet. Even Vanessa kept her head down. In the end, the judge found Vanessa and Derek guilty of trying to take Michael's life and of planning it together. They were given long years in prison. There would be no more poison, no more secret plans, no more lies in that house. Outside the court, Michael walked beside Emily. "You did not only save my life," he said softly. "You saved me from living with someone who pretended to love me while planning my end." Emily shook her head gently. "I only did what was right," she replied. Later, she returned to her simple room, and then to her mother in Tennessee, carrying nothing but her small pay and a quiet heart. People across the country repeated the story, and one thing became clear. A man with more money than he could spend was saved, not by power, not by status, but by a maid who chose truth over fear and opened her mouth at the moment it mattered most. Dear viewers, thank you for staying with this story until the end. What happened in this mansion teaches us something deep about life. Danger can hide behind a beautiful smile, and evil can sit quietly in a home where love once lived. But courage can also rise from the most unexpected places, even from someone the world often overlooks. Emily Parker had little, yet she chose truth. She chose to save a man who barely noticed her, and she stood in front of danger without thinking of her own life. She did not do it for praise. She did not do it for fame. She did it because her heart was clean, and her soul refused to be silent. Michael Reed had money, power, and everything a person could ever dream of, but he almost lost his life because he trusted the wrong person. In the end, the maid he barely knew became the person who saved him, protected him, and stood with him when the truth came out. As you finish this story, remember this lesson. True loyalty does not come from money, beauty, or status. It comes from a heart that chooses what is right, even when doing the right thing feels dangerous. Thank you for watching. Please subscribe, like the video, and tell us where you are watching from. We love reading your comments, and we appreciate you.